His grandfather's last words resonated for 50 years. "Promise me you'll never touch the living room floor." Through decades of farming, creaking floorboards, and endless family speculation, they upheld his enigmatic request. Now, as Andrew pried up the first wooden plank on that winter evening, his hands trembling, he could hardly believe what was concealed beneath. What he uncovered that night would alter everything they thought they knew about their grandfather. James Walker was the kind of farmer they no longer produce. For more than 40 years, he toiled in the fertile soil of his land from sunrise to sunset, his weathered hands instinctively knowing the right moments to plant and harvest. Local farmers frequently sought his advice, attracted by his profound understanding of the land and the weather patterns that could determine a season's success or failure. His own fields consistently yielded the best crops in the county, a testament to decades of diligent cultivation and hard work. The summer of 1973 brought stifling heat to the Walker family farm. The crops were thriving despite the harsh weather, but inside the old farmhouse, a heavy atmosphere hung in the air. James, the aging farmer who had worked this land for so long, lay in his bed surrounded by his family. Everyone knew these would be his final days. As his strength faded, James called his son Timothy to his bedside. The request he made that day would echo through the next 50 years. The wooden floor in the living room must remain untouched. They could renovate any other part of the house, but that floor had to stay exactly as it was. For 50 years, Timothy found himself puzzled by the oddly specific time frame. Why 50 years? Why not 10 or 20? But his father's eyes held such intensity that Timothy couldn't bring himself to question it. He simply nodded and gave his word. After James's passing, life continued on the Walker farm. Timothy took over the operations, determined to maintain his father's legacy. The seasons changed. Crops were planted and harvested, and the old farmhouse witnessed it all. The living room floor creaked beneath their feet, marking the passing of time with its growing squeaks and groans. As the years rolled by, the floor showed increasing signs of wear. Timothy would carefully repair loose boards and fill gaps, but true to his word, he never replaced the entire floor. His wife often suggested renovating, pointing out how other farmers were modernizing their homes. Timothy would simply shake his head and remind her of his promise. The mystery of the floor became a family legend. Timothy's son, Andrew, grew up hearing different theories about his grandfather's request. Some thought James had been growing senile in his final days. Others joked that the old farmer had been playing an elaborate practical joke. But Timothy never wavered in keeping his word. The floor witnessed birthdays, holidays, and countless family gatherings. It creaked under Christmas trees, supported furniture rearrangements, and bore silent witness to both celebrations and hardships. Through it all, the question remained, what made this ordinary wooden floor so special? Andrew often found himself studying the floorboards during quiet moments, trying to unlock their secret. But as a child, then a teenager, and finally a young man, he could never spot anything unusual. The wood seemed perfectly ordinary, if increasingly weathered. By 2020, the farmhouse was showing its age. The roof needed work, the windows were drafty, and the plumbing system was more patched than piped. But it was the floor that concerned Andrew most. Every step brought new creaks, and certain boards had developed an ominous sag. Timothy, now in his 70s, had to move into a nursing home after a stroke. The responsibility of the farm fell to Andrew, along with the mounting maintenance costs of the old house. The decision weighed heavily on him: pour money into renovations or sell the property his family had farmed for generations. As Andrew calculated repair costs in 2023, something struck him. It had been exactly 50 years since his grandfather's passing. The mysterious waiting period was finally over. Could there be more to his grandfather's request than simple sentimentality? That evening, Andrew found himself alone in the living room, studying the floor with new eyes. In the fading light, something caught his attention. A subtle difference in one board's grain pattern. How had he never noticed it before? Andrew's heart raced as he gathered tools from the barn. Was he about to solve a 50-year-old mystery? His hands trembled as he worked the crowbar under the edge of the board. The wood resisted at first, then suddenly gave way with a sharp crack. What he found beneath that board made his breath catch. The beam of his flashlight revealed several small burlap sacks carefully arranged in a hollow space. Andrew reached down with shaking hands and lifted out the first sack. It felt heavy, solid. As he loosened the drawstring, gold coins spilled onto the floor, glinting in the flashlight beam. But the coins weren't alone. Among the sacks lay an envelope. The paper was yellowed with age. As he read the letter, tears began to form in his eyes. James Walker had been more forward-thinking than anyone realized. Having lived through the Great Depression, he understood how inflation could erode wealth over time. He had spent years secretly converting portions of the farm's profits into gold coins, knowing their value would hold steady while paper money gradually lost its worth. The 50-year waiting period hadn't been arbitrary. It had been carefully calculated. James had studied economic patterns and inflation rates, predicting that by 2023, his modest collection of gold coins would have multiplied in value many times over. He wanted to ensure his family would have resources when they needed them most, particularly for maintaining the farmhouse he'd worked so hard to build. When Andrew had the coins appraised, his grandfather's foresight became evident. What would have been a significant yet modest sum in 1973 had transformed into a small fortune. There was more than enough to not only renovate the farmhouse, but also modernize much of the farm's equipment. Timothy was overcome with emotion when Andrew shared the news at the nursing home. Memories flooded back of his father staying up late poring over financial papers and overhearing discussions about inflation and economic cycles, along with the serious look in James's eyes when he made Timothy promise to wait 50 years. The creaking floorboards that had sparked countless family conversations had safeguarded more than just gold. They had preserved the grandfather's love, wisdom, and commitment to securing his family's future. What would you do if you discovered your grandfather had left such a thoughtful legacy? Would you have had the patience to wait 50 years to unlock the secret? Let us know in the comment section. I hope you like this video. Please give it a thumbs up and share it with your loved ones. Also subscribe and press the bell icon to never miss the update from our channel. Thank you.